Hello Weathering fans, and welcome to our 23rd Race for Terra Community Spotlight. In today's video we celebrate a Thunder Warrior themed hobby competition which I hosted back in March for my Patreon supporters, and which we called Cataegis Clash. The winner of this competition didn't just get the recognition of their peers, but also a brand new Gaahleri Swallowtail SD airbrush from me. We will have more competitions like this in coming months, so if this sounds interesting, check out my Patreon page. As usual, today we'll start with all 3 podium entries, before we showcase the work of all other finalists. But this time, I'm also going to show you explicitly what the judging criteria were, which are all thematic and based on one of my favorite Horus Heresy novels, Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. So guys, if you're into Thunder Warriors, this video is for you. A Race for Terra community stalwart, James is not only a member of our mod team, but also a veteran of our spotlights. This is his 6th entry to date. With such a beautiful model, combined with excellent photography, James gives me the perfect opening for this video. In terms of his stylistic choices, James explains, "I wanted to keep faithful to the Blanch artwork, so my color palette was pretty much set." Now, James used a variety of products and techniques to achieve this beautiful finish, including oil washes, liquid pigments, dirty down verdigris, and custom glowing decals by the Mighty Brush. When I asked him what the main challenge had been, he said that it was, and I quote, "trying to build up weathering on a smaller scale without overloading the model." Oh, and he also mentioned trying to figure out how to paint a cigar. For me personally, my favorite aspect of James's entry is the vibrancy of the colors. Most Blanchian, grimdark painters go for a muted sepia palette, which in my opinion gets old very quickly. James adhered strictly both to the artwork, as I mentioned, and to the very specific lore-based assessment criteria that I set out, and which I will show you later, but he did so without sacrificing that vibrancy, which I think is great. Most importantly, perhaps, there was something that James shared that I think sums up the entire event for me. He stated, and I quote, "It was inspirational seeing how different everyone approached the project, especially the amount of work people did around the basing and the extra levels they went to make that model unique." Well, James, I couldn't agree more with you, but I also think that the work-in-progress pictures that you shared with others along the way were a crucial contribution to this event. So once again, thank you. If you've watched any of my community spotlight videos, chances are that you will have seen and admired Stephan's work before. After all, this is already his 10th entry to date, following several others, like a Ka-52 helicopter or a Shilka, which were not Warhammer related. As you can see, Stephan didn't just paint a Thunder Warrior. He created a thematic diorama, which is normally known in technical terms as a vignette. While it may be stating the obvious, the sole fact that this was a vignette is indicative of Stephan's level of effort and attention to detail in this project. However, it was not something that he had the luxury of working on for an extended period of time. Stephan explains, and I quote, "I had very little time. I know it looks like I had quite a bit, but basically I had 2 days in between construction work to work on the model and the base." Rather than talk about Stephan's choice of techniques or products, given the nature of his project, I think it's only fair that I shared his very detailed vision for the vignette's narrative instead. Stephan explained, and I quote, "For me, the actual and most important Thunder Warrior canon is Judge Dredd and The Last Church." Now, The Last Church is a short story by Graham McNeill. He continues, "So the building, the story should resemble or create that vibe of the Thunder Warrior clearing a world, spreading the Emperor's judgment. What it should tell is that the Marine is neither a deliverer, nor slaughterer, hero, or perpetrator. It is in the eye of the beholder," he concludes, leaving it ambiguous as to who is the hero of the setting here and who the victim is. Well, Stephan, I grew up reading Judge Dredd myself, which I'm quite sure was a big influence on the original Rogue Trader setting. So I'm not going to disagree there, even if you had the temerity of not abiding by the color scheme that I set out in the judging criteria. Now, jokes aside, this is a magnificent entry. The only thing I wish is that I could have taken the photos myself, as I'm not sure that the images do it justice. You need to get a big light box like me, mate. Maybe for the next spotlight entry? All hail the Cataegis Clash winner, Tomasz. Now, Tomasz has done it again, after getting second place in our heavy metal competition back in January. This amazing piece is his fourth entry to date in our spotlight videos, and as you can see, it's really something special. Where Stephan went the extra mile, or several, with his scratch-built vignette, Tomasz did so with several conversions, which may not be immediately apparent to those who are unfamiliar with these great 3D printed models by the Maker's Cult. Link in the description if you're interested. For example, the top knot, the cape, and the Cataegis he made himself, and in my opinion, they totally transformed the model. Tomasz explains, and I quote, "I decided to build something that loosely follows the original John Blanche artwork. Once I built it, I realized that I can go even further and add small, but I think very relevant, details to the model, like making the top knot from something that actually looked like hair instead of being sculpted on, or also adding a cape. One salient feature of this model, which will be evident to even a casual observer, is the beautiful texture on the armor. This Tomasz achieved with a combination of products. As he explains, in order to emulate the artwork style, I added textures that look both realistic and which could have been part of the artwork. So I opted for using varying amounts of crackle paint, 2 different rust textures, and also anti-slip paste. When I asked him what he had enjoyed the most, however, it was neither the texture nor the aforementioned conversions. Tomasz explains, adding the small details here and there, small bullet casings with smoke on them, cracking the skulls on the base, little chips in the armor, and tiny white streaks from the decals were the biggest highlights for me, I think. These little things might not be visible when you normally place a model on the table, but this competition gave me a chance to let my imagination loose and really focus on the storytelling aspect of it. Well, Tomasz, it is clear that this competition did inspire you, which is fantastic, and I'm sure that your work will, in turn, inspire others, which is what this is all about. Congratulations once again, and enjoy your new Gaahleri airbrush. As I promised at the start of the video, here are the judging criteria which I developed for this competition. As you can see, we use a best fit approach with 3 assessment criteria, each of those subdivided into 3 strands. The way this works is that participants judge each other, and most importantly, they give feedback to each other, real feedback, all of which is recorded on a spreadsheet. This happens during a live hangout where I randomize who starts showcasing the work to their peers. But let's have a look at the first criterion, entitled The Weight of War.
Every movement they made brought a snarl of badly maintained servos, and you could smell the stink of atrophying flesh even through the storm's lash.
As you can see, this criterion is all about weathering. The second one, entitled A World Dying Around Them, is about basing or diorama elements.
The snow was piled up around it, in drifts 10 meters deep. Its high battlements were lined with flame weapons. When we assaulted and brought up our own heavy guns, we created a flood of meltwater. We were advancing through torrents of it, a grey sea of filth that found its way inside our armour seals.
And the third one, as if the other 2 weren't thematic enough, is all about the narrative and being faithful to the lore.
He was laughing when we met. He had a vivid light in his eyes. I thought he looked like the ghost of all murders.
So guys, I think this gives you an idea of how seriously I take the competitions that I host, and by extension, what the level of effort is which I expect of all participants. A huge thank you, by the way, to Nick for his awesome reading of those quotes from Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. A wonderful novel, by the way. Now, Dave's was a late entry due to what he aptly described as a life emergency, which explains why he didn't really have time to send us more polished photos. Well, Dave, all of us get some of these life emergencies from time to time, which is also why I'm publishing this video almost 2 months late. Let's say I'm no stranger to the phenomenon. But enough about that. Dave explained his creative choices very well for us. He said, and I quote, "I wanted this Thunder Warrior to be seen as fighting in the midst of a fiery apocalypse. I used dry pigments to indicate burning embers in a base of industrial ruins and ash. I used Vallejo gold and copper to establish his base armor tone, and added atmospheric effects from there, including an underglow in his gorget, using fluorescent inks, oils, and of course blood effects. Most importantly for me," Dave explained, that what he enjoyed the most was, and I quote, "being a part of a supportive and creative community as well. Everyone's work in progress kept me wanting to finish." Well, Dave, that means that this is a mission accomplished for me. Thank you very much for making the effort to participate, even when things went south, and I'm looking forward to your next entry. After submitting a knight errant to our heavy metal competition back in January, this is Nick's second time in our community spotlight videos, and hopefully the second of many more to come. Now Nick, whose voice you heard a few moments ago with the Valdor quotes, was kind enough to explain his creative choices to us thusly. "The main thing that I wanted to convey," he says, "is that he's been around for quite some time, and that he's no longer fighting at the Emperor's side. I wanted to achieve this by using an oil wash to create a patina effect across the brass sections, and painting certain sections of his armor in steel colors to reflect parts of the armor that he's had to replace over time. I was inspired by a few pieces of fan art that had done something similar, and I wanted to replicate that effect." Well, Nick, you were rather self-deprecating about your entry, as usual, but as it turns out, your model was just 5 points shy of making the podium. And on a somewhat related note, I would like to add that it was your questions in our Discord about possible products for that patina effect that actually prompted me to make a video about verdigris. And I think that's the thing about a community like ours. We all learn from each other, and we inspire each other all the time. Thank you once again for all your work ensuring that everyone feels at home in our community. Rick's work has featured in no less than 13 of our Spotlight videos, and every project of his has at least one element that really makes it stand out. In this case, I think you will agree with me that it's that awesome standard. Now, Rick hasn't played our collective Warhammer for several years now, but when we first met, he was an avid Black Shields player. In fact, if you check out some of my earliest Spotlight videos, you will have the privilege of seeing some amazing models of his, like his Black Shields Spartan tank. Rick explains, and I quote, "I really didn't want to paint another Warhammer figure, but that's what gained the popular vote." And yes, Rick is right, we voted on what the topic of the competition would be. Now he continues, "If I was going to do it, I figured he could be part of my collection of Black Shields, and that he would be a standard bearer. In the 40k lore, they are referred to as an ancient, and the Thunder Warrior is pretty ancient, right?" Rick used brass wire for the poles, and the signature puree tubing for the banner itself, plus some original forge-walled Black Shields decals that are now worth a small fortune. I have to say I love Rick's choice of decals and color scheme. It fits the Thunder Warrior aesthetic perfectly in my opinion. Above all, Rick, the fact that you submitted beautiful work like this, even for a somewhat reluctant entry, speaks volumes about your dedication to the community. Originally from Spain, like yours truly, Jose, aka Demencia or Dementia, is an experienced Star Wars Legion tournament organizer based out of Wales, a prolific painter, and a veteran member of our Spotlight videos. And quite soon, he will also be a content creator in his own right. That's right, Jose is starting a YouTube channel of his own. But I digress. Let's see what Jose himself has to say about his stylistic choices for this project. He explains, "Definitely, the model must have a chain axe. Agreed there. My idea of the Thunder Warrior is an unstoppable warrior, so I chose a pose kind of relaxed, but in attack mode. I went for an urban rubble base, simple so as not to detract attention from the model." Jose explains that he wasn't an expert on Thunder Warrior lore before this, but that he watched my 2021 Unification Wars video a couple of times to get inspired. Well, Jose, I think that your model is really atmospheric, and it captures the artwork that I showcased in that video very well. Besides, I love it when people watch and appreciate all videos of mine, so thank you. When I asked him what he had enjoyed the most, Jose explained, as always, being able to present an entry within the deadline and competing with other members of this great community. Well, Jose, you're an example to us all, precisely because of your level of engagement. Thank you, my friend, and keep us posted on your new YouTube channel. Now, I deliberately left Jan's work for last because I thought that it would be a nice way to round up this video. One could also say that I saved some of the best for last. Because, well, look at that. Regretfully, Jan was unable to attend our live panel of judges, which was a prerequisite for participation. Jan knows that I'm strict with these things, so I hope that he can forgive me. In other words, his was the only model that you've seen which did not get a score. Had his model been assessed by a panel of his peers, who knows what might have happened, right? In any case, I think that it's worth reading to you some of Jan's very detailed explanations about this project. He states, and I quote, "The Cataegis are generally described as being brutish, brutal, and mostly barbaric in their whole demeanor. There are also some very lovely artwork done by John Blanche. So I'm also active in the Ink 28 community and decided to approach this project the same way that I do approach my Ink 22 warbands. Let me be a bit aloof and say that I think I have developed my own style for that." Well, I think that's totally fair enough, Jan. Our running theme in today's video has been the idea of going above and beyond with things like diorama bases, conversions, or making things from scratch. As you can see, Jan's project is no exception. He reposed the Thunder Warrior, created an amazing scenic base featuring 2 soldiers, or shall I say victims, and he added convincing mod effects. When I asked him what the main challenge had been, Jan explained, to get some variation on the armor without it looking too monotone. I think the shift from gold to copper to violet did that. Also weathering the metallics without it becoming dull, which is an absolutely good way for the model to look, but not what I was going for. Well, Jan, once again, you've created a beautiful model, and in the process, I'm sure that you've inspired others with your work. Thank you, and I hope to see you compete again soon. So guys, that brings us to the end of the Cataegis Clash, a competition that really brought out the best in our community. I hope that you've enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed seeing these incredible Thunder Warrior projects come to life. From conversions and storytelling to some truly immersive weathering work, this was one for the books. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially those at the Magos and Archmagos tiers who made this competition possible. Your support doesn't just keep the lights on, it keeps the whole Risk for Terra community vibrant, creative, and thriving. But we're not done yet. If you're itching for another challenge, our next community competition is already underway. The Kugelblitz Competition. This time you'll be tackling the legendary Das Werk 135th Kugelpanzer, and you can paint it in a historical World War II scheme or go totally wild with a sci-fi or Warhammer reimagining. Just like with the Cataegis Clash, we'll be judging live, and yes, there will be another Gaahleri airbrush up for grabs. So if that sounds like your cup of paint thinner, make sure to check out my Patreon page for all the details. And to everyone watching, thank you for being part as well of this wonderful community. Until next time, keep it up and weather it out.